Hey, wrestling fans, welcome to the One Wing Wrestling Podcast, where we help you navigate the complex world of pro wrestling, bring you the best matches, world class wrestlers, and news you can count on. At One Wing Wrestling, we bring the elite to you. My name is Krishna and Nanae, and joining me, as always, is Mr. Bill Cupbush. Bill, how's it going?
It's going well. Weather's nice. Good walk. Strange winter. I learned an important lesson this weekend. Do you know what the lesson is I learned?
What is that?
Always press record.
I see.
Yes. As you may have noticed, I mentioned last week we would have a review of the Stardom Supreme Fight 2023 up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there is out there in the ether universe, moving through the sound waves of the universe, I suppose, a version of that podcast. But when I
see.
finished it and went to press stop and realized I'd never pressed start, and I had no time left to redo over an hour worth of me yakking at a microphone, I went, okay, we'll just cover the basics on Monday then, and contained my rage and went about my day. So yeah, lesson learned. It was an important one. My apologies to Stardom fans who may be listening and were looking for that podcast. I will endeavor to do better next time. Sorry about that, everyone, but you will get some details on that card in today's podcast. Tech, grr. How was your weekend?
It was good. I spent today, well, not all day, but I spent some time just trying to figure out the Netflix sharing issue, the one that's come up.
Yeah.
And I figured it out. I mean, it's not difficult, but it is a hassle, I guess, where it's it's forcing you to put down your IP, like it's choosing IP. And then you can have for me, I can have 2 additional users, right? But obviously paid users. So I did the calculations with because I think it's like $8.99 or something or $7.99, sorry, extra. So the bill goes from like 200 and something a year to like 400 and something a year. So I reached out to said users and said, hey, if you guys want, and I think I was being generous. I said, if you guys want, you guys can just give me, if you want to keep it, it's still cheaper than a regular Netflix account. $100. If you give me $100 a year, right, you can still keep the Netflix you have. But I don't know how it works on their end. I don't know if it's because how many devices on their end can use it. Because according to what I was reading, is that on mine, I have 4 devices can use it at once at my IP address.
Yes,
which is great, cool. But I don't know about the other ones. I don't know if it's similar, right? So, again, not my issue. I've always played for Netflix, right? So it's unfortunately the issues of the people who now need to start paying.
Yes, the ones who ride off the people who pay. Yes. See, I'm in a similar situation as you, and I looked at it. I had a little conversation with the person I share with, and just said, I don't want them running at the same time.
Yeah.
There's nothing that Netflix would do that was like, if I'm using it at home and I decide to go to some other house and use my account, that's okay. And if that account happens to be someone I know and we just go there and I'm using my Netflix and watching, that should be completely fine. So if the 2 accounts are not running simultaneously, then there should be no issue with Netflix.
Agreed.
Especially if it's just 2 locations where it's running in one spot but not the other, runs in one but not the other. Just means I'm going back and forth, right? You would presume. So I just said, if you're going to use it, check with us first to make sure we are not.
Yeah.
And that's it. Go ahead, right? Should be fine. If it's not, they will have the same choice you have given your people.
Right?
So
I know that like my niece uses it a lot. So I'm like, whatever. Like, I mean, if like it's and think about it, it's $8 a month. That's not bad at all. That's actually a pretty good deal, right? Netflix, when Netflix first came out, I know it was wrestling podcast we're talking about Netflix, but when Netflix came out, it was only $8. So it's steadily increased. So yeah, I think this is I think this is a deal for people who share. I really do.
Well, yeah, I do as well. If they want to get a good deal, I'm still paying for the main account because I would pay for that anyway. And if someone wants to give me the money and they'll just give me one yearly lump sum of that money and I'll make sure their Netflix runs. And that's all there is to it. So other than that, hey, I mean, the problem is that if I have to cancel a streaming service anytime soon, the one I'm going to cancel is Netflix.
Netflix.
Because they're one, they're the most expensive, and two, what do I really get out of it? I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough.
Anyway, yeah, and don't worry, I always timestamp the beginning of the actual wrestling part in these podcasts. So if someone ever, if you guys are out there and you're like, I don't really want to listen to these guys talk about the weather or their weekends or Netflix or whatever, just fast forward. It's okay.
That's true.
Right? Some people enjoy it, some people do not. Those who do not, that's what the timestamps are for. Just feel free to press to that timestamp. But on One Winged Wrestling today, we are actually going to talk about wrestling. This is our weekly show where we're going to give you some news, our thoughts and opinions on it. Krishna's going to give us his AEW Roundup. I'm going to talk about some stuff that happened in Japan this week, and we'll give our wrestlers a match of the week, as always. Coming up on Wednesday, we'll have our usual Dynamite show, and yeah, so that's what you got to look forward this week. So, Krishna, we got some news.
We did
Want to get into it?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay. We have some news for you. I am stalling as I rewind my sheet of notes. Okay, here we go. So first of all, unfortunately, Jerry Lawler last week suffered a stroke. He is, as most of you are probably well aware, one of the all-time, figures in professional wrestling, came out of the Memphis scene, very famous wrestler, had a number of very high profile matches in that territory, worked in a number of other territories, probably most famous for his work in WWF. And then again on commentary where he played the role of the I guess you could say he was more of a heel commentator in a lot of cases sometimes.
Sure.
Yeah. He suffered what was reported as a serious stroke. In the early hours, it was feared that this was going to be serious, like it could be life-ending. But over the next few days, his recovery seemed quite positive. He's now back at home and he's undergoing rehab, and we wish him all the best in his recovery and hope he has some success in it.
Yeah, I mean, like the king, he had a heart attack on like live on air a couple of years back, and that's why he kind of left commentating for like he's gone. He does guest commentating work now and then, but yeah, obviously like this is not great news. He's older, so anything like this it can be actually it can cost him his life. So yeah, we just hope that Jerry Lawler, again, I'm not the biggest fan of Jerry Lawler. I've never been the biggest fan of Jerry Lawler, but you know what? I mean, he was playing a character. I didn't like it, but great. He did a good job of doing that, right? Now, how much of the character was actually himself? I don't care. I'm not going to get into that, right? I'm not going to touch that. So you're just going to wish the king, speedy recovery. Hopefully, like he's like, I look at Ric Flair and Ric Flair is just out there, man. He's still out there, even though he's had some health issues.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just wishing the king speedy recovery, and hopefully he gets back to doing whatever he's been doing, because I don't know what that is. Maybe enjoying retirement.
Yes, I'm not sure what he's doing right now either. He may still be involved with WWE in some way. That's a distinct, but since I don't follow WWE, I don't know. Yeah, so it's funny you mentioned Ric Flair, because I mean both he and Ric Flair are known for both their health complications that arise from their lifestyles. Right. And Ric Flair has tried to clean up his lifestyle a couple of times, and both times he's either bored or not interested and goes back to his previous lifestyle. Well, Jerry Lawler tried the same thing after the heart attack, tried to clean up healthy eating, living well, blah, blah. And apparently that slipped after a couple of years and he went back to his old style. So maybe he's been given another chance to, maybe try some healthier lifestyle. We shall see.
Yeah,
we shall see. But I'm with you. I was never a fan whatsoever of his commentary work. I especially did not like his commentary back in the Attitude Era. I know he's got a really good reputation for his match work back in Nashville, Memphis wrestling, and he's a legend in those times. I haven't seen much of that at all, if any. So I can't comment on his wrestling talents, but we do wish him well. There's 100%. Let's hope he gets better. In other sad news. Himeka, wrestler with Stardom, has announced her retirement just after the event on February the 5th there. She'll be, or I guess it was what, Friday's press conference? Yeah, something like that. Retired in April after she was 5 years in the ring. She's 25 years old. She made this announcement during a press conference Friday. She says quite plainly, it's not something she regrets doing. She's looking forward to her life after retirement. She's going to have a retirement ceremony in May. Himeka, known as the Jumbo Princess, she's won both the Goddess of Stardom, the tag titles, and the Artist of Stardom trios titles. She was a finalist once in the 5-star Grand Prix, losing out to Utami Hayashishita in 2020. And she's going to have a little bit of a retirement run. She's requested a match with Kikeru Sekiguchi, and I apologize if I'm completely pronouncing that wrong, formerly of the Actress Girls promotion. That's important because Himeka debuted in Actress Girls back in 2017. She wants a hardcore match with Riza Sarah, which I can only imagine how awesome that'll be if she does it, and a retirement match with her tag team partner Maika at Yokohama Arena. And finally, she wants a singles match with Chihiro Hashimoto, and I'll be talking about Chihiro Hashimoto later. So I'm sad about this news big time. I really enjoy her matches. She has a very hard-hitting style. She's kind of like that more hard-hitting power person, and her tag team in MaiHime with Maika was just outstanding. They were slated to win the Goddess of Stardom titles at some point this year, in all likelihood. And just obviously not going to happen now. But she'll be missed. She'll be missed. She was an important part of Donna Del Mundo. One of their two powerhouses, and she had nowhere to go but up. She's been improving steadily over the last few years, and from what I've seen of her, I really enjoy her matches. She can sell like a champ. She hits like a truck. Very good wrestler in the ring, and it's going to suck that she won't be there anymore after May, but these sound like a bunch of good matches she's going to be involved in on her way out, and crowd loved her too. So the Jumbo Princess, I wish you well.
So is she retiring based? Is it injury? Is it like just?
Nope. She's
just decided to retire.
She's now decided that she's going to do something else.
Oh, hey, fair enough. I mean,
yep.
Hey, that's what you want to do. That's what you want to do. Yeah, good for her. I mean, get out while you're on top, I guess. Get out while you're not injured, and you're not, you're not going to get severely injured, because this isn't a non-contact sport, right?
Right.
I guess it's it sucks for you, because you do like her, and she's a good wrestler, part of Donna Del Mundo. How come? Since when did this start? This trend start of, I'm gonna retire, but I'm gonna have 150 matches before I retire. When did this start?
In Japan.
Was it always the way? Because recently, when what's his face? Muda was retired,
yeah,
right?
Keiji Muto. Yeah.
Like he had that tour, the retirement tour.
Well, it's still going on.
It's not, exactly. It didn't end yet. But I maybe I'm wrong. Maybe wasn't it before, like, hey, it's a retirement match? And yes, I understand wrestlers unretire every other week, right? But don't they normally have this a retirement match, right?
Well, she wants a retirement match. It's going to be against Maika, her tag team partner.
Okay, because remember Ric Flair, but then Ric Flair is a bad example too, because
he's a terrible example.
He's always coming back.
Yeah, and it's not like if you retire in Japan, you can't come back. But I get the strong suspicion that it's less typical, right? Okay. Especially when it's actually announced as a retirement. Hazuki's an example in Stardom who just left the promotion a few years back because she was kind of pissed off at the way the promotion was going at that point. So she just left, right? But she came back and she's wrestling again with them and is amazing. So she seems to be fully on board again now. So whatever happened seems to have been smoothed over. But I haven't heard of any big retirements recently in Japan. So we'll see what happens, other than Keiji Muto. And I mean, that guy was like massive star, right? So it makes total sense he's having this prolonged retirement tour. But I mean, Himeka's like 5 matches between now and the end of May.
Yeah.
So and probably whatever she's doing with Stardom on the house shows and stuff like that. But I mean, but you're right. It is kind of interesting. You get these retirement tours because you certainly don't really get them in North America.
Yeah. No, definitely not. So
Yeah. So anyway, I will be sad not to see her anymore. But we have one other piece of news, which is more, I guess, of a discussion point than news, shall we say? But I thought it would be interesting to bring up. So we're going to call this discussion rather than news. Meltzer commented on Wrestling Observer Radio recently about the way AEW builds faces, builds hype. Okay, but they're coming to kind of combine topics, but a bit separate. I'll just summarize what he said. So he basically said AEW has like some of the best wrestling matches in the world. You have never had a promotion other than say New Japan at certain points in time put on matches of the caliber of AEW on television week after week after week, where we're getting so spoiled that seeing a 4-star match is par for the course when that used to be something you would talk about for weeks on end if you got a 4-star match on television. Okay, so we're really, really spoiled with the wrestling. But there is not a lot of hype around AEW, and hype grows companies, not good wrestling. And he said the problem is they're not building those big stars, those like big faces, right? They have people who are good faces, but not big ones. And he said the problem is this: we don't know who the people are. You bring out, and he gave the example of the trios match from Dynamite, right? Where we had Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks taking on Dante and Darius Martin and AR Fox.
Yep.
Who are Dante, Darius Martin, and AR Fox? Who are they? Who is Dante Martin? What are his motives? Why is he wrestling? Like, why are we supposed to care about this guy? What's his goals? Right? Same thing with Darius. The only thing we know about Darius, Meltzer said, is that he had a car accident.
Yeah, you're right.
Yep.
He's been injured multiple times. That's it.
We know nothing about these people. So he said that they're not building people. And it doesn't only mean promos, right? It means all kinds of stuff around them too, like getting to know them, building up their story so that the audience has something to get behind. And when they do that occasionally, like they start building up certain people like Takeshita or Wardlow, and you start to get a little bit of hype around them, AEW has a great tendency to kill that hype very quickly. What happened? His examples, what happened with Wardlow and Don Callis? Where did that go? And then the handling of Wardlow when they had a star that was built up. All right. So, and then the fact around like building up the matches, right? It ends up you have these matches that aren't built. The only way you're going to know about the story that's going on is if you follow the product very carefully and are watching everything, and you've kind of got to piece together your own story. But story building isn't just the commentators giving you a one-liner going into a match. So that's what he said is the fundamental problem right now with AEW and hype and trying to build the product.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I can't disagree because I brought this exact same thing up a couple weeks ago, maybe even last week, where I said, they try to compensate for matches by throwing someone on Dynamite, not Dynamite, on Dark or Elevation before, and say, hey, by the way, this person, right? No story, there's no build, and it's like random, hey, I'll fight you next, and it's okay. That works in some cases that I have random challengers. But what storylines? Like as I said, the one storyline I think is doing very well in AEW at the moment, which is still being poorly done, is the women's storyline with Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter versus Saraya and Toni Storm. Right, the outsiders are here, and you're like, oh my god, well, like who's joining what? Like, this is actually is a very interesting storyline. What's happening in the men's division? Like, what exactly is happening in the men's division? Right, as a storyline, I couldn't tell you. I really like we really come down hard on WWE because it's the same thing over and over again. We don't think the quality of wrestling is there, but they remind you of stories. Yes, they do also bury stories immediately, but their big stories, and they'll always have big stories, are at the forefront every single time.
Yes.
Kenny Omega and the Bucks, who's their big rival? They're just people are just jobbing to them at this point, right?
Yeah.
The House of Black comes back. What's happening there?
And who are they?
Who are they?
Other than the fact that they look like these scary people and put on promos where they talk about things, who are they? Why are they here really? What are their motivations? Right? Meltzer's not wrong. And that's one of the big problems. Like, okay, we kind of understand John Moxley's motivations, right? We know he wants to be the best. So I don't think Meltzer's right in all circumstances. We know Moxley is motivated to fight. We know he's motivated to be on top. We know why he wants to be the champion because it's in his blood, blah, blah. So, and we know Bryan Danielson, we know his motivations by and large. I think they could make them clearer. But I do think those are two guys where they've done a pretty damn good job of explaining who they are. MJF is a bit of a mess.
Yeah, right now, yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to know exactly what his motivations are. But I think the problem is even if we did know, what we really need is to understand the challenger's motivations.
Yeah.
Why should we get behind the guy who's challenging MJF? Why? I mean, right now, Ricky Starks. Why should we get behind Ricky Starks? Who is Ricky Starks?
Yeah.
Why is he in wrestling?
Yeah. Eddie Kingston. What's going on with him and Ortiz? Like, you have these little flashes here and there, and the flashes are so infrequent that you're confused. You're like, what? Did I miss something? Did I not watch
well, that's
something?
what I mean. It requires super careful watching of the product to try to figure out what's going on, because you're right. It's little flashes here and there. There was like that really quick promo segment on Rampage again. Right? Like that's supposed to fill in the storyline for the week for me.
And that's it, right? Wrestling is sports entertainment. We need to remember that. So, like, for example, when I go to, like, let's say I watch a hockey game or I watch any type of other like sport. Yeah, you're right. Like, I may not be like fully invested or what have you, but I'm watching it for the sport itself. Wrestling's different. Wrestling's very different because if you think about combat sports, right? You can even go to UFC. The build up to some of these matches in UFC are absolutely insane, right? You have them going at it. They're just there, and they're bringing up like these different things that are happening. And wrestling, that's the whole point. To progress a storyline, you need a story to do that, right? Or you have no storyline. You just literally have random matches. Oh, okay, sure, but then I'm just not as invested as I should be. I'd be like, yes, you know what? Athletically, like, these guys are gifted, these women are gifted, this is amazing what they're doing. But I don't really care why that person's fighting this one. Who am I cheering for? Am I just cheering for the sports? Go wrestling, right?
Go wrestling. We do. We just enjoy wrestling, and we are very spoiled with these matches. But we want to get behind someone. I want to cheer for one of the two people in a match. But here is the comparison. You brought up sports, and I think that's actually a good comparison because you go to the Leafs game, but who's Austin Matthews?
Yeah.
Right. You know who Austin Matthews is.
You do.
You know who Mitch Marner is.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know who Mitch Marner is. You have these players on the team that are your favorites, and you understand their motivations, right?
Agreed.
Same thing in football, right? You know the quarterbacks. It's not the Eagles versus the Chiefs. It's also Mahomes, right? He's hyped up. It's his chance to win. Brady was the same way. It's not the Patriots. It's Brady's Patriots, right? There is a figure that the hype gets behind. Yeah. And then there's a story about that, right? Like, look at the way they try to tell stories around Super Bowls and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because it builds the hype. They have to have a story so that they can advertise it properly, right? Because nobody's like, then they just like, yay, sports. Why do I want to watch? Like, for instance, people were watching last night because they were annoyed at the amount of privilege that Mahomes gets from the NFL.
Yeah.
Right. That's not out of my mouth. That's out of the mouth of other people. Right. And I saw this online quite a bit. They were like cheering against the Chiefs for that reason. Right. So people who wouldn't normally watch sports at all are watching this game.
Yeah.
So because of the hype around
and that's it. Yep. That's it. Right. And like I as I said, like WWE right now, they're killing it with this Sami Zayn storyline. Yep. People are literally tuning in just to watch this storyline. Yep. What does AEW have right now? What do they have? We had a match with Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay in January, right? It's built a pretty good storyline. But yeah, we understand there's going to be a delay. Like, they're off doing their own thing right now. Yep. Okay, so what's Kenny going to do? Yep. What are the Bucks doing? Yep. What is any, because I can't speak for the females because I know what they're doing at least, but what are any of the guys doing in AEW at the moment?
Right. Well, and here's the thing, right? Like, even with Ospreay and Omega, I think they're dropping the ball on that too.
I didn't want to say it, but I agree with you.
Yeah, because there's a difference between, okay, they're going to go off and do their own thing, but then not even mentioning it. Like WW, not WW, AEW television
Hmm.
barely mentioned the match at
Nope.
all. They haven't mentioned anything about it. It's like the media's gone dead quiet on it. They had like what like Meltzer jokes now about how I think, well, it's not going to be match of the year because they're going to have to beat that, right? And it's like nothing right now is going to be able to be match of the year because there's already that contender sitting there, right? One of the greatest matches of all time in wrestling. And yet, what are they doing with it? And this is both New Japan and AEW's fault. It has gone into crickets. Now, the build won't take too much to build up again if they want to, because there's so much hype around these guys facing each other, and there'll be the story there. But they should really keep the embers on the fire.
Well, this is why the rumor mill runs. And this is why the rumor mill is really the only thing that AEW fans have at the moment, right? Because if you want to listen to the rumor mill, you want to believe that maybe these storylines will happen, what you're hoping on, maybe if you're an AEW fan, is probably one of the biggest storylines that may happen, right? Let's say FTR takes the belts off of these kids, the Guns, right? You know, there is someone else who can join FTR. And there could be a huge storyline with the Elite versus FTR or CM Punk and FTR, right? And at this point, I get it. It's not for everybody, but think about that storyline, right? Think about people are getting so hyped on the possibility of that even being something, right? That I think they're focusing on that. They're not focusing on what's in the now. And imagine nothing happens. Imagine how bad this year is going to, like, so far this year for AEW hasn't been that great in terms of storytelling.
Correct.
Wrestling
the wrestling's been off the charts.
Fantastic, right? Wrestling's been fantastic, but the storytelling is just not there. So at the end of a Rampage, at the end of I don't want to say a Rampage, at the end of a Dynamite and stuff like that, when things end, you're kind of like, that was awesome. Like, okay, what's going to happen next week? There's no anticipation. Like, oh my God, did you see what happened at the end of that match? What do you think is going to happen next week? Like, that's not happening. We're literally fantasy booking, right? Because we have no guidance in what's happening week after week after week. And that's AEW's fault. That's Tony Khan's fault, right? So and that's why I'm like, yeah, I love the wrestling, but when someone says, okay, well, who's this guy and what is he doing? I'll be like, well, they have a belt and they're really awesome. And they're challenging people. Why? Why are these guys getting shots? I don't know.
They need to explain to us why Jungle Boy is wrestling. They need to do a little more in depth with Darby Allin. They've started the process. They need to stop dropping the ball on Takeshita. They actually thought Takeshita was going to be the next big thing, and they've done nothing. Crickets. They're just like having him lose to people.
Think about, let's say Takeshita ends up having a little feud with the Elite and stuff like that, or he joins them. There's a storyline right there. But are we getting any of this? No, I'm not seeing it anywhere, right? No. I'm seeing glimpses here and there, and then they bring it on screen to make it as if it's fact. Everyone should know this. Hey, you didn't know this, right? And they'll be like, did you know that this person and this person used to live together during the pandemic? No, because no one told us this.
Right.
For the past month that you had to tell us this, but now you're hyping us up, and you're literally telling us this as the person is making their entrance to that fight.
Right. Contrast this with the Momo Watanabe versus Saya Kamitani match from Supreme Fight. Momo is going for, or Saya is going for the record for defenses. Momo holds the record. Now, Saya's first match in Stardom, or at least one of her first matches, was against Momo, and Momo beat the crap out of him. Okay.
So they had that, yeah.
They had that. The intro video to that match was their history. And it goes all the way back to Saya coming in. And like Saya, she looks so young and so inexperienced. And it was just hilarious seeing how far she's come since then, right? Yeah. And I mean, it's they know how to tell the story. This mattered. Look what they did, right? They built it up so that her breaking the record was against the person who holds the record. There's your story. I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome.
Yep.
Right. And you've still got Suzuki versus Julia, the whole prominence grudge of Julia ditching her old promotion, leaving Suzu behind. She's got all this, and that's been explained. You understand why prominence hates Julia, right? You get it. So those two factions war with each other.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, and you don't really get that in AEW at all.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Last week, on Raw, Cody came out. And you know how whenever Cody comes out, I roll my eyes. I just roll it because I'm like, Cody comes out, cuts a promo saying that, Sami Zayn is fighting Roman Reigns at whatever the next pay-per-view. So he said, "Oh, my opponent's not really decided yet. So it might be Sami Zayn. It might be he's going for his friend Sami." Interrupted by Paul Heyman. Remember, they're starting a feud for WrestleMania, which is gonna be like 2 months away, whatever. And they get in. Heyman gets in the ring. Remember, Roman Reigns is not there. Heyman gets in the ring. Cody cuts a promo on him and say, "You know what? I remember you when my family had nothing. You helped us. You helped my father put food on the table. I'll always respect you for that." And then Heyman says, Heyman in tears, you're like, wow, this is really good acting by these two guys. Heyman in tears, and he's like, I remember that. And then he said, I also remember working with your father. And he said, you were his favorite son. But Roman Reigns is a son he always wanted. I was like, oh my God. Right? But and Cody shakes his hand and says, you've just made it personal. Right? So you have a build. Something is starting. It took apparently that segment took 20 minutes, and they were saying people didn't even feel like 5 minutes, right? Which is great storytelling, right? They had personal. I'm not getting any of that. What did we get last week? We got MJF telling a story to make himself seem like more of an asshole. Great.
Yeah. It was a step up from his previous stuff, but still not, oh my God, off the charts.
That's it. Okay, so great. But I want to see more you versus Danielson promos. I don't care about you just talking about yourself. I could care less, right? Let Danielson shoot on you. Let us build this. Okay, Danielson's been wrestling. Yes, MJF had a great match last week. He really did. But as we said, AEW has great matches, but their storytelling, and I don't know what's happening, is just falling flat, and I just don't know what it is that's happening right now. So,
well, it's just a lack of storytelling. It's falling flat because there is none.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There's nothing exactly.
Right. Well, hopefully these problems will get fixed up sometime in the near future. But until then, we will keep hoping for good stories, and then we can stop fantasy booking and start actually talking about the storylines that are happening. But speaking of AEW, we do have the AEW Roundup.
All right, let's find out what's been happening in the wonderful world of AEW. And the reason I'm saying that is because as I'm about to pull my notes up, I accidentally closed them. So as usual, we're
having a real technology week, aren't we? Yeah.
But it's like you assume we never used these phones before.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, you'd assume I'd never used my recording devices before, right? Jesus.
So I'm gonna start with Dark this week because I made a comment last week. I said, Dark has been lacking a little bit, and Elevation is actually a lot better. And I'm sorry to say this, but again, Dark was a bit lacking here. Elevation actually was a lot better than Dark this week. Okay. But Dark, just a few shout outs. I want to give a shout out to Slim J versus Mascara Dorada. This match had some interference from outside, obviously from those trustbusters, whatever they call themselves. But Slim J actually is pretty damn good, I must say. He's not your prototypical wrestler. He doesn't have the look or anything like that, but he's actually very, very athletic. And I was impressed by the way he was handling himself with Dorada, who's obviously a luchador, who does lucha things. Slim J was holding his own against this guy, right? So I had fun with this match. I know Slim J is good, but every time I see him, it always reminds me, right? Yeah. It's like Henry, right? So I mean, the good match. Check it out. I'm also I'm gonna tell you to check out this match if you can. You don't have to. So this is me just prefacing this early.
There's some hype for you guys. AEW hype right there.
It's hurting me to say this because Bill mentioned this name earlier.
Yeah.
EJ and Duka versus Takeshita. I expected more, and I don't know why I expected more. Some parts of the match seemed a little messy, but man, that Takeshita brainbuster, I don't know how he doesn't kill somebody with that damn thing, right? He does. It is absolutely amazing. Even his Blue Thunder Bomb, a little off, and Duka did a Blue Thunder Bomb to Takeshita, and then Takeshi did the same thing, but Takeshi's looked a little bit off compared to Nduka's. It was really weird. It was a okay match. It's definitely not Takeshi's best, but I'm looking at Dark and I'm like, all right, if you're gonna watch Dark, you can check this out. But I'm not gonna lie, I had more fun with the Slim J match than the which is sad, right? So, and apparently EJ and Nduka is someone from WWE. Didn't even know that.
No, you got me stumped. Yeah.
So let's move on to something else. Let's go to Elevation.
Okay.
Because I had more fun at Elevation. First off, Juice Robinson versus Jake Christ. What's his name? Yeah, Christ, Crist, or Christ. No, I don't know what his name is. Like Jake Christ. Let's go with Christ.
Let's go.
I don't know who this guy is. Like, I think he's been on one other match in AEW, but obviously a loss. Him against Juice. Listen, Juice sells so well. He's one of the funniest. Like everything is like the worst thing that's ever happened to him. Some hard hitting moves in this match, and Chris, very impressive. Like this guy, okay. The way I explained, the way I thought about this is, Chris looks like a punk rocker, but he can do flips and stuff like that. He's absolutely insane. Like I'm talking like grunge punk rocker, and he's doing all these crazy moves. I'm like, is this guy really pulling this stuff off? And against a guy like Juice, Juice is really good. Like it was actually a really fun match. I had a good time with this one.
Cool.
And then I wrote, I didn't get these guys' names, but I wrote the Dark Order versus the Job Squad. So this was Uno, Silver, and Reynolds. They're such a good team. Oh my goodness. They're so like, Silver is so fun. Like he is like, he's like a hamster, and I hate to say hamster because hamsters are small and he's small too, but like they have so much energy and he just explodes, right?
Yeah.
And this guy is so strong, and like his moves with the Uno and Reynolds, it's like, I really do miss Stu. I miss Stu still,
right?
But these guys work so good together, right? Obviously Dark Order won this match, so that was cool. Next up, Yuka Sakazaki versus Billy Starks. Billy Starks, I mentioned her a couple weeks back, I think. Yeah. This match surprised me. Like I remember her being like hard hitting and stuff, but man, Yuka can take a beating and she can dish one out too. There was one move where Starks did almost like a swanton off the top. Well, it wasn't off the top rope. Let's say second rope, but Yuka was lying on the ring apron part and hit her there, and I was like, I don't know if she actually hurt her. That looked crazy good, but great match. Like both these ladies, like I was actually really impressed with Billy Starks, and I don't know if that was in like credit to Yuka, right, for helping her with some of these things, but she looked good on her own, right? And this is the second time she's looked pretty good on her own.
Oh, absolutely. Yuka is amazing. Billy Starks, solid. I will, though, give a shout out to the Job Squad. Here's their names if people are interested. Crash Jackson, Matt Brannigan, and Rennie D.
That's why I'm like, I'm not capturing these three names.
I have never heard of them.
Too much. And no, I've never heard of them. I've never seen
because
any of them in like the AW ring.
They must work in like a southern indie, I'm going to guess. I don't want to bury myself here in case one of these guys is suddenly famous and I just didn't know it. But they must work in like, because they were in El Paso, right? So they might work like a southern indie that we just don't know, which is highly possible. Anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No worries. And of course, like the comedy match of the week for me was obviously the Best Friends versus SAP. So good. They're like, what are you gonna say? Like Orange Cassidy's Orange Cassidy, like Chuck and what's that? Why am I forgetting his name right now? Chuck Taylor and Beretta. Yes, yeah. They're so good. Like they're all awesome. And listen, you know how Danhausen's growing on us. So you add Danhausen out there for some comedic relief, and I'm cool with that, right?
Yep.
SAP, Luther annoys me. That's all I have to say. I just can't stand Luther. And he always annoyed me from the beginning. And I have respect for him. His character annoys the crap out of me. My God. And of course, Sir Pentacle, because he's been knighted. He's always great. Like again, these guys, it's like their stable is dark. They're always on dark, like SAP. Like Angelico's on like is like permanent Leon Dark. I don't know what he ever did. He's so good and he's barely ever used.
Yep.
I was like, okay. And it kind of seems like maybe Angelico is gonna be facing Orange Cassidy, which is not a bad match.
That
I
would
wouldn't
be a
mind
great
see,
match.
yeah,
I
I wouldn't
would be
mind
happy
seeing
to see
that.
that. Yep.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. This match was actually the comedy match of the week for me. I had so much fun. It was just so like I
Nice.
love it when I just laugh through. Like you don't have to take like these are the ones, guys. We don't have to take every single match seriously. You don't need a storyline here. They're
Yep.
just out there having fun. These are the ones
Yep.
we that are our palate cleanser because you
Yep.
want to have those crazy gripping storylines and then something light and fun, right?
Yeah,
And
I
then you
mean,
can have it.
there's a place for all this stuff in
Yeah.
wrestling, right? The thing is, we're not asking for every single match in AEW to be built up like it's some kind of amazing
Yeah.
hype machine. What we're asking is a couple of really good core storylines and then surround it with the amazing wrestling, right? That would be great.
So, this reminds me of a very terrible movie I watched a long time ago. It's called Ghostbusters. It was the remake of the original Ghostbusters, which one I love. And there's one scene where one of the characters keeps ordering wonton soup.
Mhm.
And when she first gets it, she gets it and it's all just wontons. There's actually no soup base. And then then the second time she gets it, it's like 2 wontons and all soup base. And she's like, I'm just asking for a middle ground. That's all I'm asking. AEW, that's
Mhm.
all I'm asking for. Middle ground
Right.
here, guys. Come on, right? Middle ground. That's all we're asking for.
Mhm.
But to end it off, because I'll tell you the truth, I watched Rampage. I wasn't really impressed with Rampage, so I'm not even gonna talk about it. Elevation, the last match, Butcher and Blade, top flight. What can I say about this? First of all, the Blade looking different every time I see it. Not Blade, sorry, Butcher looking different every time I see him because he had his long hair and now he's bald,
Mhm.
right? He dresses like Tatanka for some reason, and I don't understand why. And I'm not going to question it because Butcher's a big man and he'll probably destroy me. Though, if you listen to the interview with him and the Hey You interview, he seems like
Yeah.
the nicest person you could ever meet in your life.
He probably is.
He probably is. But like, great match. Like Top Flight, these guys are just getting again. They're getting pushed to the moon. But what's their story? You're right. Who are they? 2
Mhm.
brothers who can do flips, and that's it. Who are the Butcher and Blade? Some mean guys,
They're mean guys. That's right.
right?
They're mean guys, and they hang out with the bunny.
The bunny.
Why? We
We
don't
don't
know
know.
that either.
Like, even if they were to say the Butcher and the Bunny are like married, who cares? Give me some background. We know that because we're wrestling
Mhm.
fans. No one else is gonna know that. It's kind of like,
Right.
why are these 2 guys hanging out with this girl here? What's the relation? Like, what's
Right.
going on, right?
Yeah. Why?
Anyways, yeah, it's this match was great. I had fun with it. Like, as I said, Elevation has really stepped its game up. They're
Mhm.
having really good matches on Elevation. Dark, I don't know what's going on with Dark, but like, yeah, I would prefer to watch Elevation right now over this. But yeah, great matches. Check it out if you have a chance. Yeah, that was my AEW report.
Okay. The roundup is over. Yeah, no, it wasn't bad. Rampage wasn't terrible, but you're right.
It,
It wasn't at kind of the standards it had been recently. So
well,
yeah,
I didn't want to talk about it because I don't want to get into the whole storytelling thing again, right? Like, we talked about this. Why is Jungle Boy?
yeah,
What is he doing? What is all this nonsense? Yeah, so that's why I didn't want to talk about it.
exactly. Okay, so let's shift over then to Japan. Shall we take a plane?
Let's
Yay.
do it.
So yes, Stardom Supreme Fight happened, and somewhere in the ether is a very long podcast about it, but I'm going to give you the quick summary version of it instead. Cheering is back. And oh my God, this was the first time I watched a Stardom event with cheering.
Ooh, okay,
What
okay.
a difference. Man, this crowd can go nuts for stuff in Stardom. It was great. This started with the Nanae rules match that Mayu Iwatani came up with, where she basically created this match so that the winner then gets a shot at a championship of their choice. But it was kind of like, it was called the Nanae roulette match. And so 2 people get drawn on the roulette wheel to start it off. And then if okay, it also has over the top rope rules, right?
Okay,
But
okay.
they get to have a 5-minute match. Okay. And whoever wins the match then can stay in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next person is drawn. So they would then be running a gauntlet. But if both people lose, which say they run out of time, 5 minutes passes, they both go over the top rope together and hit the floor or whatever, right? Then both are out and 2 new people come down to the ring,
Okay.
right? So it's kind of like their way of getting rid of the customary battle royal to open the show to get
Mhm.
people on. They did this and said, I like this a lot better than a battle royal. It was kind
Mhm.
of fun. There were a
It's
lot of
different.
like double eliminations, which was kind of like, okay, and then they'd bring out two new people, and that's fine. I mean, it was okay. But Saki Kashima won the match. There was also no appearance by, Super Strong Stardom Machine in this, so though it did have an appearance by Billiken Death, which is Fukujin Death the clown, not Gokujin Death, but Billiken Death. So that was the comedy moment of the match. Fortunately, Saki Kashima beat her for the actual win, because I was worried there for a minute they were actually going to have Billiken Death win the Naniwa
So
roulette
this
match.
clown person is like the Doink the Clown, or like, man,
Except
when Mick Foley did
except
all his stuff.
except can wrestle really
Okay.
well, and the crowd doesn't seem to mind her.
Hmm.
So she
So
does
they
her
like her.
gimmick. She knows, yeah, she knows her role. So she's basically a high speed wrestler, but she owns her own wrestling promotion too. She's been around a very long time. So by wrestling standards. Anyway, so Saki Kashima, some other things. Saki Kashima did beat Momo Watanabe. It was a good match, but it's not going to be one of the ones that I'm
Mhm.
going to detail. It was detailed on the hour-long version of this, but okay, I'll stop going on about that now. So Saki Kashima has set the record for the Wonder of Stardom title defenses. There were a couple of other good opening matches that I will skim over, but we get into the really good stuff when we get to Mirai versus Chihiro Hashimoto. Remember, I mentioned Chihiro Hashimoto before. She came in because Syuri wants to fight her. She's from Sendai. She's a big woman, right? Think like Nyla Rose body type, more or
Mhm.
less. Maybe a
Mhm.
little smaller though, like
Okay.
more compact, right? But big woman, powerful as hell, very respected, and she's come in because Syuri wants to fight her, but she wants to have some fun first. And then Mirai got in the way and challenged her, Mirai being part of Syuri's faction. So she had to fight Mirai first. Hashimoto's transitions are insane. Okay, this woman went from a headlock to a crossface to a pin to a figure four neck
Oh
lock
man.
without pausing. It was just one move after the other, transitioning to the next, transition to the next. Mirai was amazing too. Her transitions into her like armbar finisher in
Mhm.
this match were insane. Like both these women wrestled their asses off. It wasn't just like two women who can pound each other, pounding each other. These women wrestled their
Wrestle.
asses off. I was surprised to see Hashimoto wrestling like this because I'd never seen her before.
Mhm.
Right. Eventually, they went to strike exchanges, running strikes. Mirai won the running strike thing. The crowd was like so solidly behind Mirai, too. They were really cheering her on. But I mean, eventually, Hashimoto, like, picture a female version in some ways of Claudio Castagnoli in the way
Okay.
that she can like deadlift people and toss them around. So like she did a deadlift gut wrench suplex at one point, got like a hammerlock out of a hammerlock submission by suplexing Mirai. It was some incredible power spots, right? But the end came. There was a giant lariat that Mirai kicked out of. I bid on that. I thought she was getting pinned, but then Hashimoto nailed a bridging German, and that actually took Mirai down. But she had a couple of good near fall moments too. It was a great match. Mirai's selling is next level and made Hashimoto look like an absolute powerhouse. And when Syuri came out after and was like saying, "Okay, so we're next," Hashimoto's like, "No, I want more fun. I want another person before I face you." So she's going to have one more match against someone else before she actually gets to Syuri. But this match was outstanding. The storytelling was great. The wrestling was amazing. I mean, this 100% worth checking out. This match surprised me. I was like, okay, this match is going to be whatever. And it blew me
Yeah.
away.
Nice.
So, I mean, I love stuff like that. Another match to check out on that card was 7 Up, Nanae Takahashi and you taking on MaiHime with the retiring Himeka. Of course, when I watched the match, I did not yet know that Himeka was retiring, and I thought they were going to give MaiHime the titles here. And of
Mhm.
course, they did
Mhm.
not. So, well, naturally, I mean, if she's leaving, they're not going to be handing them the titles in all likelihood. This was a story match. Himeka early in the match did a running knee off the apron and came down and just screamed and held her knee. Right. Doctor came over. I was like, oh my God, did she really get injured? Like it looked like a real injury. No, it was storyline. It was
Mhm.
100% storyline because like they got her back in the ring. Nanae starts working over her knee. But while she was like well Well, she eventually tagged out pretty early when Maika interfered, and Maika was left alone in the ring for ages because Himeka was selling the knee injury, and it was just like she held on for a long time. Mike eventually tagged Himeka, who was still strongly selling the knee. I mean, Nanae went right after it, right? Figure four, you hit a senton on Himeka while she was in a figure four. That looked painful. She locked on a knee bar. Himeka was screaming. The crowd was so. I'd never heard the crowd so hot. They loved MaiHime so much. There was a good Tower of Doom spot, power bomb to Nanae. But when Himeka went for her own power bomb, her knee collapsed out from under her. She was selling the knee for the whole match. You dropped her with a cannon with this woman's cannonballs. You've got to see them. They make Toni Storm's hip attack look gentle.
Oh wow.
I mean, this woman is big and she just comes flying at you. It looks like 100 miles an hour and just destroys you in the corner with a cannonball. It is so impressive when you see it done. But anyway, Himeka actually looked like she was going to get some stuff off. She got the power bomb for an amazing near fall. She did a spot where she pulled down the knee pad on her other knee and was using it to hit moves, which was a pretty cool thing. They did a double crucifix bomb, unfortunately, to Himeka, but Maika interrupted the pin. There were double refrigerator bombs as like top rope splashes to both MaiHime, but it only results in a near fall too. As I'm biting on, there was just near fall after near fall, and I'm biting on a good chunk of them because I don't know who's going to get these titles, and they're all big power moves, right? So it's this really exciting multiple near fall finish. I mean, Himeka rolled up Nanae for 2, then eats a sliding lariat for another near fall. There's good hammerlock power slam though by Nanae at the end, and that finally put Himeka down for the 3, and they won. Their next challengers are going to be BMI 2000, who are the only team to beat 7-Up during the tag tournament. So this is Oedo Tai's BMI 2000. So we will, it's Natsuko Tora and Ruaka, who are, Natsuko Tora is the leader of Oedo Tai. So it is also natural. I would suggest checking out Julia and Suzuki as well. Of course, they had a good almost half-hour match. They both went at it. Suzuki took control at one point with a power bomb off the apron. Suzuki ripped the tape off. They both had taped shoulders. She ripped the tape off Julia's shoulder and went to work, started attacking her there. She had a chicken wing back suplex that was insane. Suzuki did like a locomotion German suplex, a top rope German suplex for great near falls. I mean, these women they destroyed each other for 25 minutes. It was great. Julia, of course, wins by setting her up with the V trigger and then a pile driver and then a Northern Lights bomb. And she finally pinned Suzuki. 100% worth checking out. So this was the kind of card where there was no bad match on the whole thing. Everything was fun. Everything was good. It's funny because in the Wrestling Observer newsletter this week, it got there were 89 people who voted on what, thumbs up, thumbs down, 100% thumbs up. Right. Of course, the New Japan show also got 100% thumbs up this week too. So I'll be getting to that in a moment. But yes, you know what never gets 100% thumbs up? WWE or AEW.
Yeah, events. I was gonna say.
Anyway, they also get more votes though, so maybe that's something.
Yeah.
So that was Stardom this week. That show completely worth checking out. There's lots more good stuff coming. I'll review more of it next week. We are heading into the Cinderella tournament soon, so that'll be good stuff. The winner of the Cinderella tournament it traditionally goes for one of the top 2 belts. Probably the Wonder of Stardom Championship. If I have to go out on a limb right now, I'm going to say Hazuki is winning the tournament. So you heard it here first, or maybe second. I think there are other people in the universe who are also predicting Hazuki, but yeah, she's my pick. This woman is the kind of woman who wrestles at 100%, no matter what kind of match she's in. So, oh look, a comedy match. I'm going to kill everybody. Cool. Anyway, so New Japan had their New Beginning in Osaka show this week, and there's a couple little things to report on it before I get to the match I think you should check out from this show. Minoru Suzuki, El Desperado, and Ren Narita have formed a new unit that they are calling Strong Style. So Minoru Suzuki did not retire. He just disbanded Suzuki. So now he's in a new unit with El Desperado, Ren Narita, and their Strong Style. And they beat the House of Torture to win the 6-man tag championships.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So finally, the House of Torture no longer has the belts, and I am very happy. And they're, Ren Narita now has a title. So that's very cool. I was happy about this. The match was good. Jay White lost a loser leaves town,
Yeah.
loser leaves Japan match to Hikuleo. So essentially, so the match, it's basically Jay White carrying Hikuleo through a match. It really was. I'm like, so the guy who loses is the guy that's leaving, or is the guy that's like by far the better wrestler of the two. Look, I'm not going to sit here and say Jay White is the greatest wrestler of all time. He's good. He's definitely good, and he definitely carried this match. It was okay. I'm not going to recommend, if you're going to go out and watch matches off this card, not one of the ones I would say you need to check out. But I think it's interesting just because Jay White, originally it was kind of like the stipulation is loser leaves Japan, but it didn't say New Japan, right? So it was like, is he just going to go to North America and wrestle for New Japan there? But apparently, no, he's actually completely out of his contract, and there is now a bidding war for him going on. It's the bidding.
War
Is there a word
2023.
that rhymes with 3 that we can then rhyme with 2023?
Bidding
The bidding
war.
spree of
Oh,
2023.
yeah, there you go. Bidding
Yeah.
spree. The
Yeah,
bidding
for
fees. I
Jay
don't
White,
know.
almost as exciting as, one for MJF next year. Woo. Anyway, recommended match, Tama Tonga versus El Phantasmo for the never open weight title. I love El Phantasmo. Okay.
He's good. He's really
good. He's very good. He does some solid aerial offense in this match. Beautiful tope suicida, tope Chihiro. They both look great. He was trying to target Tama Tonga's arm. He was, of course, employing Bullet Club style cheating too in places, but he was trying to go after Tama Tonga's arm to prevent the gun stun, but then Tama Tonga targeted his leg to ground him. So it was a nice, it was a very smartly wrestled match by Tama Tonga. They both exchanged finishers at the end, both kicked out of each other's finishers, which was kind of cool. And then Tama Tonga finished the match by pointing to the heavens and nailing the J driver on El Phantasmo. So that was
nice.
kind of his little salute to Jay Briscoe. So that was kind of cool too. And El Phantasmo, unfortunately, is not your never open weight champion. Sadness. I would also say, if you want to check out a good match, Okada versus Taguchi.
Yeah.
Solid match.
Okay.
Very Okada style match. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that. I'm sorry, not. Did I say Taguchi? Shingo Takagi. Oh my God, what the hell's wrong with my brain? So Okada beat Shingo Takagi. It was classic Okada, right? There were good explosive parts, solidly wrestled match. I mean, if you're going to check out another match on this card, I would go with that one. At the end of it, he issued a challenge to Tanahashi for San Jose. So that's going to be their match on the February 18th card that is coming up in just a few days. But that will be a pay-per-view. But it is going to follow the format for the New Japan Strong program. So the matches on it will be divided up over a number of weeks into 4 shows on New Japan Strong, which is where I will be checking them out because I'm not going to pay for the pay-per-view because I'm cheap. Anyway. So the card for Battle in the Valley this Saturday, February 18th, we've got the IWGP Women's Championship. Kyrie will face Mercedes Monet, whatever the heck you pronounce her last name, in a 5-minute match for the IWGP Women's. Oh no, I'm sorry. It won't be 5 minutes because Mercedes Monet is in it. So they'll get like 15, 20 minutes, right? It's not that, time not going to probably wrestle circles around Mercedes Monet. Anyway, I'll stop grumbling about that sometime next year. IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, Kazuchika Okada is taking on Hiroshi Tanahashi. We've got the NJPW Strong Open Weight Championship. Fred Rosser has been the champion for quite a while and had some really good title defenses, is taking on Kenta for that belt. See what happens there. Kenta may end up with that championship. These strong tag team champions are up for grab. Championship is up for grabs too, with the Motor City Machine Guns taking on the World Class Wrecking Crew. This should be a good match because it's got the Motor City Machine Guns in it, and World Class Wrecking Crew is good. I've seen them on Strong. I haven't, been bragging about their matches or anything, but they've been good matches. They don't suck. Then we have the World Television Championship. Zack Sabre Jr. is taking on Clark Connors. Eddie Kingston's taking on Jay White. There you go. For whatever reason, there's a Filthy Rules match. Filthy Tom Lawler taking on Homicide. I don't know what a Filthy Rules match is. I'm going to assume it's no DQ, but I don't know that for a fact. And then we're getting Mascara Dorada from one of your matches this week, Josh Alexander, Adrian Quest, and Rocky Romero taking on Kushida, Kevin Knight, Volador Jr., and the DKC in what should be a really fun 8-man match. So that was it. I look forward to seeing these on New Japan World.
So wait, Jay White is facing Eddie Kingston?
Yes.
But Jay White lost his last match, so he's not. Is it just
all it said was loser leaves Japan. Okay, this is taking place in San Jose, California.
Okay. All right.
It's not Japan. So he's facing Eddie Kingston.
Okay.
He's also not fighting any New Japan talent.
That's true. That's very true.
Yep. He's fighting in San Jose against Eddie Kingston. So there you go. Yep. And my last little piece of news, the New Japan Cup brackets have been announced. This is for the New Japan Cup 2023 tournament set to begin on March 5th. There are 24 competitors this year, 8 receiving buys, some notable names receiving buys in the first round. Will Ospreay, because he doesn't need to wrestle in the first round. Kenta, Chase Owens, Jeff Cobb, Tamatonga, Great O'Khan. Don't ask me how Great O'Khan got a buy into from the first round. And Zack Sabre Jr. Your first round matchups are Sonata versus Taichi, Tetsuya Naito versus El Phantasmo, go Phantasmo, Evil versus Ren Narita, Toriano versus Mark Davis. The winner of Toriano versus Mark Davis faces Will Ospreay, so Will Ospreay could end up having to face Mark Davis of the United Empire, who he will then kill. And then we have David Finlay versus Tomohiro Ishii, Shota Umino taking on Takahashi, Yujiro Takahashi, Yoshihashi taking on Kyle Fletcher, and Shingo Takagi taking on Aaron Henare. I will let you know if any of those are worth checking out. So that is the report from Japan, which brings us now to our wrestlers of the week.
So I'm can say a name here because I'm going to make an edit later on. But my wrestler of the week from last week is Mr. Bryan Danielson, because he's just, you know what? He's just so damn good. And his little run he's having right now is like, I can't remember a time where he's had a better run, to be honest with you. Right? Like, I'm thinking back to his WWE days and stuff like that. Like, even with the belt or whatever, I don't remember a run like this, besides when the fans literally pushed him into existence, right? So, or wish I say willed him into existence, because he was awesome. He is awesome. So Bryan Danielson, for whatever he's doing right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. Bryan Danielson, that match he had against Rush this week was just insane. That was such a good match. And yeah, I got it. Like you said to me on Wednesday. So are you basically, this guy's going to be your wrestler of the week? And I watched a lot of really good wrestling this week, and there are a lot of honorable mentions I could throw in here, because you heard me. There were tons of good matches to watch in Stardom this week. There was some solid stuff going on in New Japan. Nope, Bryan Danielson, he still wins. I mean, that just, it's so good. So good.
Yep.
Match of the week. I did them backwards this week. So
I know. Yeah, you're backwards. So maybe you did backwards because I was going to swerve things a little bit here. Uh-oh. So I on Wednesday I chose, obviously I went with the Elites. I went with my heart, right? So I always go with. And then I rewatched the Danielson match again. I think I watched it Friday. Yeah, rewatched it again in totality, and yeah, that match was insane, like absolutely just crazy. So I watched the Elite match. I'm like, this match is really great as well. But on a night where you had that type of match with Danielson, I have to change my vote again. So I'm gonna give the match of the week to Danielson versus Rush, and retroactively change my choice from last week to the match.
There's no going backs.
Oh, I went back. I've changed it
backsies.
To Rush versus Danielson because it was a great match.
Okay. Well, I'm torn, and I've been torn, because for me, it comes down to 7-Up taking on MaiHime, which was just an insane wrestling match that I enjoyed a hell of a lot, with an amazing, and I just bid on all these finishes and stuff. It was so much fun to watch. I was so into it. The moves were outstanding. And Bryan Danielson and Rush, which again, I loved it. It was outstanding. I was just totally into this match. The storytelling was insane. It's so hard to pick between these two matches. And I'm going to have to go with Danielson and Rouge. But it's really, really, really close. If you ask me again tomorrow, I'd probably pick 7-Up and MaiHime because it was just, it really, that was for me, that was match of that card. So good. And it surprised me too. I did not expect it to be match of the card. So anyway, yeah, it's a good week for wrestling.
I have a question for you. Danielson has now finished his gauntlet. He's facing MJF.
Yeah.
They have 3 more Dynamites. So 3 weeks left of programming. How does AEW drop the ball on this one, Bill?
They take a week off. That's one. So they'll just take a week off and barely mention the storyline, or they'll have like just minor little inset promos or something. Week 2, then we have MJF in the ring. He cuts a promo. Bryan Danielson comes out. He cuts a promo. Week 3, they brawl backstage. Now we go to the
3 weeks. 3 weeks left for this build, and I'm like, really, guys? This is how you're building it? You got 3-week gap here?
Do you know what you really need? You need some interviews with you need JR to sit down with Bryan Danielson. No, I'm serious though, because he's very good at these sit downs. And ask him a bunch of questions about what the hell he's doing. Like, why are you into this so much? Why does it matter to you so much? Because in all honesty, remember why Bryan Danielson got so mad at MJF in the first place?
Because he couldn't keep up with him. He said he's a fake wrestler.
Go backwards.
Before?
He killed William Regal.
Oh, yeah.
Do we hear about that anymore?
No.
Just because the dude left the company doesn't mean we should stop talking about the storyline.
He sucks.
He killed William Regal.
That's true.
And Bryan Danielson cut that wonderful storyline to Jon Moxley about why William Regal mattered so much to him. Remember that? See, and then they dropped it. Now we're left with you thinking, because he thinks MJF's a fake wrestler. Right? That's not really a motivation. He has a really good emotional motivation for going after MJF, and they're not mentioning it anymore. So I think what they need to do is sit him down and get all that out clearly on Dynamite in detail, so that it's in the front and center, big show, all the fans will see it, and work off that. Have MJF lambaste him for his motivations. Go back and forth on that. So then it sounds like the heel is saying, your motivations are dumb and stupid. He deserved to be killed. I'm not a fake wrestler. Let's go fight. All right. And then act like a fake wrestler in the whole match.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Because if you're going to play that role, you're going to play that role. The worst thing you can do is go, no, I'm actually a real wrestler, and go out and prove he's a real wrestler. Dude, that completely defeats the purpose of your character, right? Your character has to be look at Brandon Cutler. That man knows how to wrestle to his character. End of story. Don't be someone you're not when you're playing a character.
He had to bring up Cutler. He had to do it, eh?
I had to do it.
Jeez.
And on mentioning one of the elite, because he is, as the great one always says, goodbye, everybody. Mwah! And good night. Bang.
Good night, everyone.